Well, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Wherever you are, welcome to my stoop. This is mamaB stoop because I love sitting on my stoop, listening to music, reflecting, talking to neighbors. And so in this space here is my stoop online. So welcome. So in the other video, I mentioned that there is a manual to parenting, and I mentioned how that manual includes what we know from our childhood. I said that often we say that there's no parenting manual, there's no manual to parenting, and I say that there actually is. So you can listen to that other video and find out that thoughtscape. And I said that we do have a manual to parenting, and that manual is our childhood. We know how things felt when things were done to us. We know how it felt when things were done to us. We know the tools that we wish our parents had. And we know the good things that should have happened but didn't happen. Like the acknowledgements, the validations, the expressions of love. A child is to be seen and heard. And in that a child is to be seen and heard, it ties with, in my mind anyway, when we say we don't have a manual for parenting, because I often hear that in the context of how to discipline our children, to spank or not to spank. And so today I thought we would talk about that whole spanking or not to spanking, because largely it has become it's predictable actually when we talk about spanking or not to spank. To spank or not to spank is because my people, my Christian people, love you all. But the reaction is always, well, spare the rod and spoil the child. And that belief and mindset is so pervasive that often we don't even want to hear what science actually says, right? And what science actually says is that all of that spanking that I call domestic violence against children, and I know that people bristle when I say that, but that's what it is. Just because we use soft language to explain it or to describe it, in my mind, doesn't change the fact that inflicting physical pain on a child is domestic violence, is violence. Because think about this. If an adult in a home puts their hand on another adult in a not loving way, we call the police because of the assault that happened in that home. Yet when the same adult puts their hand on a helpless child, we call it good parenting. And so for me, it just doesn't compute that the age of the victim determines what we call it. Because that child experiences violence towards them. We call it, oh, it was just spanking. And we say this in hindsight. You know, we say, oh, when I look back at all of that spanking, I see now how I deserved it. Oh, I wouldn't be where I am and the person that I am without it. But I always say, but that's not how you felt as a child. That's how you are reframing that as an adult now. But this whole conversation for me is from a child's point of view. Because how we reframe all of that spanking does not wipe the tears of that little girl and that little boy. It does not remove the impact of that upbringing, that toxic upbringing. And so that mindset that to reach a child you have to inflict physical pain on them. I even hear parents say, oh, the world is going to abuse them out there. You're all talking about gentle parenting. And it actually just said to me that we have been taught, somebody taught us, that as parents we need to take the position that just because the world is going to abuse our children, so then let me abuse you first. Let me be the first one to abuse you. That doesn't sit well for me. I don't believe that to reach a child, that child has to be crying and be in pain to reach them. We don't even get reached as adults in that way. You know, think about it. When somebody is yelling at you, an adult, a spouse, a partner, is attacking you and accusing you, you freeze because that's threatening to you. You freeze. Nobody can reach you like that. We know this as adults, and yet we expect our children somehow to be able to be neutral and be able to push through all that pain that we're inflicting on them and understand something that we're trying to teach them. No, that's all trauma stuff. We're traumatizing those children. So just think about it. A traumatized mind or a traumatized soul is not a mind that's going to listen. It's not a mind that hears. But for some reason, we expect that children somehow, in a magical way, have these powers that are not human. And yet we give ourselves that humanity, that don't yell at me. You need to talk to me better so I can hear you. You're not communicating well. And yet we want our children to receive what we have to say when we are spanking. No, we're not spanking them. It's not a spanking. It's violence, domestic violence against children. And so I wanted to also focus on, or maybe even touch on, how as Christians that I love, we throw this spare the rod and spoil a child, and it's from the Bible. But here's a thought. I have come to understand that spare the rod that we now understand as an instrument to inflict pain on our children, that's not what the Bible ever said. See, that scripture in Proverbs, spare the rod, was written by Solomon, who was a poet. And he used the Hebrew word shavat, or in some places they use a B, Shabbat, S-H-E-V-E-T, or S-H-E-B-E-T. And that Shabbat, or Shavat, was a stick or a staff that shepherds carried when they were out in the field shepherding. And they used that staff to point and guide their sheep around. When the little lamb or the little sheep looked like it was about to fall into a ditch, the shepherd used that stick to prod it away from danger and back to the flock. I don't believe that staff, the shepherd, was going around beating up on the sheep. They were guiding the sheep, directing the sheep. And so over the generations of interpretations of the Bible and the versions of the Bible, this word rod showed up. And so we used our contemporary understanding of the word rod as being an instrument to inflict physical pain on children. And that mindset, that belief, that deep-seated and deep-rooted belief showed up in our homes in the form of domestic violence against children, showed up in our schools. Oh my God. Corporal punishment in our schools, showed up in so many areas of our lives where we believed that to reach people, they need to be hurt. And then we say, as parents, when we do that to our children and they're out here in a puddle of tears, oh, be quiet. Be quiet. I will give you something to cry about. Imagine that. Imagine as an adult, someone beating you up and then telling you that you shouldn't be crying because they will beat you up more and give you something to cry about. Think about that. Think about that helpless child being trained, because that's what we're doing, right? Every time we do that to them, we're training them that they deserve that type of treatment. And we also say to the children, Oh, I do this because I love you. And then we wonder why they grow up to stay in abusive relationships when somebody beats up on them and then turns around and tells them, I love you. We wonder why we believe that love is painful. That's not love. Love is not painful. If it's painful, it's not love. Okay? If it's painful, it is not love. Let that heal you. Let that help you to leave those type of relationships. That's not love. But anyway, I just wanted to share that whole spare the rod and spoil the child, and how what we're doing to our children is domestic violence against children, because when an adult lays hands on another adult in a home, we call the police because of the assault that happened there. And yet when the same adult lays hand on a helpless child, we call it good parenting. Who taught us that? Who taught us that? So, no judgment, no heat. We're just bringing awareness to beliefs that were handed down to us, that we just unconsciously follow because we parent how we're parenting. But if we parent as if we were once children, we will reflect and see. Go back to what it is that we believe and ask yourself, why do I believe what I believe? Who taught me this? Does it make sense? Is it fruitful? Is it helpful in my home, with my relationship with my own child? So let's do that. Let's bring awareness to what we're doing and recognize that spanking should not be a thing we look back at and a thing we reframe, because now as adults we say, oh, we needed that. And then I hear people say, well, you know, I turned out okay with all this spanking. Really? You did, eh? You turned out okay. Because, you know, just because you're productive, just because we are productive, just because we can put one foot in front of the other, does not mean that we're okay. It doesn't. That's why we show up the way we show up in our relationships with our friends and neighbors, with the people in the world we live in. It's because we are bleeding the pain from our childhood. So let's think about that. Heal ourselves and heal our homes. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for stopping by. And in the next video, I think we're going to talk about what I said I would share in the previous video, which is how transformation happened for me as a parent. Because, as I always say, parenting is a deeply spiritual journey. Thanks for being here. See you next time on the stoop next Sunday. All right.